hello to my one person waiting. I know I dropped this out of the blue, so if anybody comes, they come. That's all good. This is just going to be a chill stream. Grab some watermelon. Right on. How are we feeling? I'm going to be checking chat on this phone. I'm doing this on my phone right now because my computer lags a lot. Right. Yo, eek, mashed magic. Sorry, that took me a while to pull up. It's good to see you here. Yeah, I'm going to be doing my Q&A tonight. I've been meaning to do this for a while, and seeing how I didn't upload anything today. Bet you didn't think I was going to do anything today. Psych, I did a live stream. Although I did lie, I said that this is going to be a chill stream, but it's actually a complaint stream. Like today, I was going to do this earlier, and there was just this god-awful noise, just a terrible noise outside, like, it sounded like, kind of like a jackhammer level of irritating, but like constantly, like, I was like, if this is a construction worker, they're going to take a break soon. But no, it was just constant. But yeah, I'm so glad and surprised I'm able to do this today, so that's really great. Yeah, so thank you very much. I'd like to say that this live stream is being held on Mi'kmaq territory, unceded, the unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people, and I'm very grateful for that. Yes, here. It is nice and chill. I also made myself a drink. I've been wanting to like be able to do this more often and like plan for it. Eek, how you feeling? I'm feeling pretty good, yeah. I've been anxious about like just getting my feet wet and doing this. So yeah, I'm feeling like it's like anxiety, but like a chill anxiety. So it's kind of good doing it at this time of night. I don't know. My plan is to do this until basically I'm too tired to keep going. Or, yeah, until I've run out of stuff to say, or, yeah. So, but I will start this with talking about the questions I got on the community post that I made a little while back. Thanks. Yeah, I'd like to put myself out there sometimes. Like, they always say, like, oh, yeah, you gotta put yourself in those uncomfortable situations. You can't get too comfortable. And, yeah, I agree with that. But always, to an extent, working on any new pieces. Yeah, not really, like, in terms of paintings. Oh, but, yeah, I just disagree in the sense that, like, sometimes uncomfortable situations can be, like, harmful, so you shouldn't put yourself too far out if you don't have the spoons or the energy for it. So, but yeah, I feel like I got the energy for this. This is good. We're doing great. I'm going to be working on a lot of new pieces soon, actually. I'm going to go back to NASCAD, and they're going to be back on campus. They were doing it online for a while, and I'm pretty nervous about that. I haven't been back in school since, like, 2018, which feels like it was just yesterday, kind of like we went into hibernation or something. Yeah. Definitely for sure. But yeah, it's so it's gonna be weird. I'm kind of like necessitated to go back to school. I'm not even sure how I feel about it anymore, just because like yeah, I feel like a much different person than when I started school. But I do plan on like making my videos kind of about what I'm doing in school, so that way I can still maintain doing videos every week. That's the plan. It might be like more art focused or whatever, but like I'm trying to break the mold and like not be just that salvia guy. Like you can still come to me with salvia questions. I'll still make salvia videos, but yeah, just like gotta break that mold, you know. Have a lot more things to say, a lot of other interesting things going on. Okay, so I got 5 questions. I'd say, okay, 5 commenters, I should say, because they kind of said a bunch of questions in one. We'll start at the bottom. Wait, when did I make this post? It says a month ago. It's been a month. My cat's underneath my feet. Sorry. Can everybody hear the chill hop in the background? Is that decent? I forgot to shout that out actually before I start. I'm listening to Chill Radio 24/7. It's a really popular one. The Bootleg Boy 2. Yeah, so it's a really cool stream. Yeah, cool. Yeah, I might turn it down if it's distracting or whatever, but yeah, it's just so I don't feel like I'm just in a silent room, and kind of feels like a party, you know. I haven't socialized in a long time. I don't call people very often. But it's cool. It's cool that y'all are available to hang out right now. That's pretty awesome. This is gonna be fun. And feel free to shoot me any questions you have too, or like anything you're thinking. I'll go back to the chat and read it after I do these first. Okay, here we go. So PBV3RDAD says, I think that's PB Verdad. They commented or asked, why is LSD time dilation so weird and future predicting alike? This only derives from my experience. Right. So so time dilation and predicting, I feel like I can see how that kind of got lumped together, but I feel like these are actually pretty different phenomenons. Phenomena. Okay, so time dilation happens with like a lot of psychedelics. Yeah, it is really wild. How do I explain it? Like as far as I know, we don't know like where in the brain time is experienced, but it's like it's really I think it might be like our brain that perceives time being stable and going in you know, at a stable pace. Relativity kind of pushes back against that a little bit, saying that like, you know, putting your hand on a hot stove feels a lot longer because it's much more intense. Your senses are activated and stuff like that. So I think when our consciousness and our state is altered, it can really make time feel a lot different. Like time dilation is like true in dissociatives too, like ketamine and stuff like that. Just like when things are intense, like things feel like they're very long, you know. And I think you know, one thing that psychedelics do is the shutting down the default mode network. And you know, we're still learning about all what the default mode network does, but the main characterization there is like, this is how our brain normally operates on the day-to-day. Like this is like our routine, how we survive. So once that is shut down and other parts of your brain can communicate, all sorts of weird things happen, and everything that was perceived as stable, you have narratives, ego, steady state, blah blah blah, all of a sudden now that's all like gone, and your perceptions actually take over. You know, they kind of go what would you call that, haywire or something like that. They go rogue and start perceiving other things. Like our brains are capable of, you know, constructing the entire reality that you perceive, because it's not like just like a simple movie theater back there or something like that. It's like it's all conducted, and yeah, that's just the lens we got to perceive reality with. So I think that's why time dilation is fuckered. But then for the other question about premonitions, I think this is a different phenomenon. I think I find, especially with LSD, but other psychedelics do this too, and that's giving I don't know, like causing more weird occurrences, synchronicities, just things that are just like really odd that you swear wouldn't happen if you weren't on LSD. Very weird coincidences, things lining up, things that feel highly symbolic. I remember when I was on LSD, it felt like there was someone designing it, like the trip. It felt like a story, like there was a whole narrative, right? You know, like after a few years now and like trying to research the brain or whatever, I feel that our brains and our like emotional connection to how we perceive reality kind of can give off pseudo revelations, start to see coincidences when there weren't, just because like we're in a state of like everything is just like wow. Like, I mean, I was just like moved to tears about a snail being on the ground on LSD, you know, you just like, everything just seems so much more spectacular. And so it can lead to pseudo revelations where you feel like you got all the answers, you know, all the answers of the universe. I know there's like some like really wild cases when it comes to predictions where like on LSD or like some visionary quest, if you will, people have just like very wildly accurate premonitions, but especially when they're highly wrapped around symbology or symbolism, then they can be interpreted in many different ways. And we're trying to see what our unconscious is saying. What do we feel deep down, like without like, because we judge ourselves so often when like we try to like just like, okay, subconscious, how do you feel about these things? And they'll give you like this weird picture, and then we try to judge it and like parse it or whatever. But bottom line, we can easily like if they gave us like some symbol that like we're like, oh my gosh, they gave me this symbol, and then like a few months later or whatever, how long ever later, it actually happens. I think it just like, it's a wild coincidence, and like I feel like our brains have like our psychology has a strong tendency to like create narratives and to make connections. So I feel like that is more likely the case. Otherwise, it's like, how do we explain like time looping on itself? Like, by taking a chemical, our perceptions can actually like loop time. We can see the future or something like that. That's harder to wrap my head around. But like, you know, I've also got heavy into dimensions for a little bit. So, I mean, you know, that's a whole nother bag if you want to talk about like how time works and dimensionally and shit. That was fun. I'm having a great time already. I saw a few of you commenting, but yeah, it's very profound. Yeah, coolest thing I saw on Salvia. I'm gonna, man, like probably the coolest thing was the T-shirt and the T-shirt square guy that I had in my trip report. That was just like, that was really cool. Otherwise, I can't like really describe it because it's like, it's a different kind of sea, you know? It's a, how do I describe like some like thing happening in my peripheral, you know what I mean? It's hard to describe. Do you have any experience gardening, growing sour? I wish I had a brief opportunity like last year for like exactly 1 year. I had an apartment that was actually like the basement floor of a house, and there was yard there. I could have like made a garden. I like should have like hopped on the opportunity, but I ended up having to move at the end of the summer, so the whole summer I was just too stressed to do anything about it, and we moved in the fall, so like not during the winter or whatever. But otherwise, like we got lucky once, like getting a balcony, and like again, I should have seized on the opportunity. Now I'm living in an apartment with like very bad ventilation, no balcony, so one day I'm gonna get into gardening. I swear that like yeah, it's one of those things I like always find like really interesting, but I like then never do. Like yeah, too many things. Your art looks like mine. I love it. Hey, I'd probably like your art then. Yeah. Do you follow me on Instagram? Link up. I got you. I got more than 40 points. Oh, right on. Yeah, send it to my address. You can just email it to me, or just email me. We'll link up. I'm pretty sure plants are fine. Have you ever done DXM? If so, can you post trip reports about it? I should do some trip reports about it. Personally, I have not yet done DXM. I'm kind of interested in the sense that like a lot of the trips sound like very similar to Salvia, but like without the visions. But specifically with the way time breaks down into like frames or moments, that apparently happens a lot with DXM. Apparently it can happen on other dissociatives too, like DXM, or sorry, like ketamine and PCP. But I'm not as interested. Like I might try KET, I might try DXM, but honestly I'm more like, I'm such a vision-based person, so that's like where my interest is. I advocate on behalf of all drugs. Like I think, yeah, more power to you. If you like DXM, that's freaking awesome. I might like share some DXM trip reports and try to like make the connection toward Salvia, just so like, yeah, because I think there's this tendency for people to be like, Salvia holds the key to these experiences when these experiences are experienced in different ways on different substances, where they're very similar, they're just tweaked a little bit, and it's just like because it's a different chemical structure. So like I think that kind of demythologizes Salvia a bit, but like also makes the image of reality more interesting, because it's like, okay, how do we alter our brain to how do we experience time differently? It's freaking fascinating. I definitely would like to see more research into time dilation stuff. Fax them to you. That'd be great. Local community gardens. Yeah, there actually is a local community garden. Yeah, I just need to get out. I've been a hermit. Yeah, but yeah, I should totally do that. I'm gonna be getting into more community stuff, I swear. What are your thoughts on oral salvia? Have you had any success with ROA? I'm not sure what ROA is. Could you explain what ROA is? I just haven't seen that abbreviation before. Chewing salvia, quitting salvia, I would love to do. I still haven't done, and I feel like I'm like doing the salvia channel, telling people to do it, and I've never done like rolled up salvia. Like, man, that would be so awesome though. It's like, I feel like by what I hear, the experiences are like, I feel like it's probably the way to go. Smoking it just like comes on a rush way too quickly, so it's hard to build up with it, and it's so easy to do too much. It is so easy, but it's like the reason why quitting didn't catch on is because it's hard to market that. It's like, hey kids, do you want to, I'm sorry, a big loud honk outside. Hey kids, do you want to like chew something for 20 minutes, like that tastes god awful, and swish it around your mouth? and trip in your bedroom alone. Like, no, people want to like take a hit and see shit. But yeah, I think quitting is probably like the more respectful and the more like, I think having it more drawn out, you can probably do more with the experience. Like Salvia, by the time you're even getting to grips about what's happening, it's over. You're like, what the fuck? And then it's over. Like an eternal what the fuck. Tincture the extract. Yeah, I thought about it. I hear a lot of bad reports of it, like end up going bad, in the sense that like it just ends up burning their mouth and doesn't give them much effects. I think I'm sensitive enough to it that I would feel the effects, but like, yeah, I'd consider that. Would. Tried it with dried leaves. They were active for smoking, but I barely got any effect. I think fresh leaves would be the way to go. Yeah, fresh leaves are, I mean, probably the obvious way to go. I know with like mushrooms, dried mushrooms is better, but with salvia, since they're leaves and you're like chewing on them for a while, it's definitely better to have them fresh. Although that's less accessible unless you have your own plants, like this one person. Like 40 plants, I'd be damn. But yeah, like if you had dry stuff, then you can soak it in water for a little bit. I recently did a podcast with Oscar of Kaleidoscopic Cafe. Excuse me, not super sharp right now. Oh, my live stream stopped. Why is it stopping? Get back on there. Okay, I'm gonna keep talking when I set this back up. Man, what was I saying? Oh yeah, Kaleidoscopic Cafe. I was saying that. Kaleidoscopic Cafe did this. Put the dried leaves in the water, and then chewed it. Just know that if you do put it in water in order to freshen it up, the longer you have it in, the more diluted it's going to be, the less strong it's going to be. So just keep that in mind. If you can endure it, like maybe doing it just dry is the way to go. I don't know. But yeah, and I've also got a lot of mixed feedback on not just extracts, but chewing, or sorry, not just tinctures, but also chewing extracts. I don't really, in my mind, I don't see why not, because how salvinorin A travels through your mouth is through the salivary glands underneath your tongue and the back of the gums. So if it's the pure compound is the salivary glands, I don't see why that wouldn't work. You know, the whole thing about chewing it is just so you can get those juices on those salivary glands. That's the whole point. So I don't really see why it wouldn't work. Again, like, because there's like kind of like such mixed data, this is why if you're going to self-experiment, start low, build up. When you start feeling things, you know, journal it, you know, and keep track, you know. Oh, this is too much, this is too little. Find where it's best for you, because it just varies so much person to person, you know. You gotta find what's best for you. It can be expensive, but but if yeah, save up your lunch money. No, fresh off the plant for sure. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Going back to, wait, where was it? Back to the community post. I have 4 other comments there. Right. Good buddy Flavs. All right. So, their question is, as history has showed us, consciousness expansion and rightist thought are not mutually exclusive. True, that was what my Junger video was about. Why do you think that is? How can a psychedelic experience make you come to all sorts of bigoted conclusions? and what can we do as individuals to lower the impact of harmful ideas in the psychedelic community? Congratulations for reaching your goal, by the way. Yeah, thanks. Appreciate that. All right, so here comes the Dolo answer to that. Yeah. So what this comment is referring to is this phenomenon where a lot of psychedelic people nowadays, as opposed to the 60s, because these are like kind of like the two psychedelic spikes, I guess, in Western culture. Yeah, but this time around during the psychedelic renaissance, there's this interesting thing where a lot of psychonauts are more right-leaning, more right-wing. A lot of people believe in conspiracies, pseudoscience, rejecting science and stuff like that. And I know that you can still be science skeptical or like have a magical frame of thought and be on different sides of the political spectrum. But I think the reason why psychedelics have been doing this is, my explanation is that it's not the psychedelics' fault. I think that people, or rather, psychedelics do have a strong potential and a great potential to decondition people from conditioning from all of our propaganda, everything that we've been taught in our lives or whatever, and try to rethink everything. They have that kind of ability because it brings on such a radical experience. It kind of forces you to want to have a more radical viewpoint on reality and what, you know, life is and all that. But they do not inherently drive people to one political position over another, because there's a stronger competitor in the ring of conditioning, or I don't know how you could call that, the tendencies of ideologies or something, I don't know. And that is media. Just our media now, we are like so consumed with our I'm sounding like an old person, I swear I'm not. I use my phone all the time too, but we're surrounded by our phones, social media, TV, video games, just like, because especially the more urbanized you are, the less connected you are to the earth and like doing things around, or cultivating land, I guess, that kind of stuff. The more we need to fill our time with our entertainment, our media sources and stuff like that. And I'm not trying to paint this as a bad thing, it's a neutral thing, but this is such a stronger conditioner than psychedelics are. I think psychedelics can be useful tools to try to help a person challenge those things, but if we can't even identify what we're challenging, we'll get a sense that there's something not right, but we can't pinpoint it, you know? Like, I took psychedelics for a long time before I come to the political position that I'm in now. And yeah, because I couldn't identify what was going on. I wasn't educated enough, you know? So once I found out about a few things, that's when I like started realizing like there's some core moral principles that have kind of stayed true. Like, I don't want to see harm done to other people. Whether I was a metaphysical person, spiritual, or now materialist, I've always held that moral, and I just like have like different justifications for that now. But bottom line, psychedelics, they do have the power to decondition, but not inherently, and they're not a stronger force than media, because we're consumed daily, like minute by minute, with our culture, with our media, and that is just like, you know, I don't advocate that we do psychedelics every week and like go off into the woods, and I think that's like probably like the extreme end of like rejecting everything, and I don't think that's necessary, because we're social beings. We want to like participate in our society and like our community, We want to see good things happen. But like, man, there's just like so much information out there and misinformation, and we can really get funneled along. And so to return back to like why psychedelic people kind of go into right wing, I think that's just because of how the media streams are. We are like living in a right-wing society. We are constantly manipulated into buying products, you know, telling us what our dreams should be, what values you should have as a human being, like the work ethic, for example. Like, oh, if you like sit on the couch all day, then you're good for nothing. That kind of like really horrible conditioning that like just like it needs to be pointed out and challenged. But sometimes if you don't point it out, those kind of just become like background assumptions. But now where media is, and like I think media actually helped with the psychedelic renaissance. Like YouTube brought to my attention Terence McKenna. I would not know Terence McKenna if it wasn't for YouTube, and I got really heavily into Terence McKenna. And he really influenced my psychedelic ideology. I came out of psychedelics scratching my head, and I think that's the truth of the matter, is that most people come out of psychedelic experiences scratching their head. Terence is like, maybe we should just like always scratch our head. And I think that is true to an extent, but like, I just like, we need more sources, you know? We need to like really develop our range of experiences. We need to hear from other people's experiences too. Like, especially as white dudes, like, oh my gosh, like there's so many like assumptions about like, you know, how things are, and it's like, that just don't go checked, you know? Like, you know, the stresses of other types of people I wouldn't know about unless you like empathize and like actually like get in contact with these types of people. This is why I think it's like really good to do community work, and then you like actually like, you know, you touch grass, you get a reality check. This is what people are living through, you know, this is how other people are living. Yeah, so I think so in terms of how do we help that, that's a whole other thing. All these subjects I told myself I was going to do videos on too, and just like been putting them off. No shortage of ideas. Oh yeah, I didn't say why I didn't have a video this week too. I actually had a video planned. It was going to be a big one. Then I found out it was too big because oops. So then I was like, okay, I gotta scrap together a smaller video, and I've been able to do that in the past. This week it just didn't happen. Got down about it, but I feel good about doing this live stream to make up for it. Is everyone having a good time? Let me know. I can see your message pop up, so I need to know that everyone's having a good time. I'm gonna. If you want me to explain why is Salvia your favorite, this is nice time. Good. Yes, I will tell you why Salvia is my favorite in a bit. Yeah. Right. So how do we help psychedelic people? People getting turned on to psychedelics, really questioning reality and their position. I think this is like the people get blown apart in the sense that like they don't know what to think, and that's when influencers come in. You know, you'll have fake shamans, you'll have fake spiritual people, a lot of like fake capitalists who are trying to sell you things. Don't make it seem so evil or whatever. It's just like what happens under capitalism. It's like we're under a profit motive. So like I think a lot of people go into psychedelic experiences being like, how can I monetize this? How can I sell this to people? You know, I'm gonna be a speaker or whatever. That's like a really big tendency. A lot of people like trying to get a business idea or whatever. But that's just like because of our condition and our not conditioning, just like our situation in under this society, under this regime. So like we are on our toes, we are on hot coals, we need to be thinking about how we're going to be able to make money. And so we turn we try to quickly come up with explanations to these spiritual questions that we have after psychedelics, or just not necessarily spiritual, but reality in general. And so like when we got like all these people trying to like hop on, they try to like, you know, wear the aesthetic of psychedelics. So you kind of associate the psychedelic experience with these people. Like, you know, for me, like mushrooms and Terence McKenna, they're like the same thing almost, you know. But no, they are totally different things. You know, this is one person who had these experiences, and this is what they thought about it. But yeah, and I do think it is good to like always stay critical of like everything, like always be critical. But yeah, it's I think there's like this strong tendency, people just like end up projecting really hard after having a psychedelic experience. They project that like things should be just like good vibes or whatever. I see a lot of memes, like I follow hashtag DMT and stuff like that, and like hashtag third eye, and a lot of shit that comes up under those hashtags are like things like just like something's good is happening, you know, manifesting, that kind of shit. There's a lot of people who think that like if you keep that positive attitude, you attract good stuff. Again, just like this it's very bad political theory. It's like no matter what vibes you give off, you have to pay your landlord. You know what I mean? You have to sell your labor, and those conditions take theory that psychedelics just can't give you. You know what I mean? And that's the thing. So yeah, it wasn't the goal when I started this channel, but that's kind of where I'm going at now. It's just that like there's a lot of psychedelic people who are turning into Christian right-wingers, or just like right-wing or Christian, or and just there's not, yeah, I'm just trying to be the atheist left-wing voice. That's so yeah, you can take psychedelics and be a leftist is that's what I'm trying to say. So yeah, so how do we fix that? Sorry, I don't know if I even answered that. Counter media. I'm trying to do that right now, and also just talking to these people too. Maybe being involved in the forums and stuff like that. Cool things are happening on Reddit. We just need more voices challenging these like really just like bad takes about whatever, you know. Like I get this one comment coming all the time of someone being like, Salvia is not a real psychedelic because God chose these psychedelics to be, and it's like, okay, this is like something you totally constructed on your own, and like, sorry, there's just like there's no evidence of that. It doesn't jive with me. You know, it doesn't fix any of my problems. You know, a lot of cheap solutions out there on the marketplace of ideas. And yeah, those are what you got to be worried about. Psychedelics, they are there to help you decondition from things, think more critically, shut down from the default way of doing things every day. It's not really to like, you know, it doesn't make you right wing, it doesn't make you left wing. If it makes you right wing, I think that speaks more about media than psychedelics. Yeah, so that's my explanation there. I hope I answered all those questions. Yeah, but I feel like a rambling mess right now. I can't even tell. Actually, I should go back and see the live chat. Yes. Hey Maxwell, it's good to see you there. We're spinning. Oh guys, it's split in here. Man, I wasn't even paying attention. I'm sorry if I might miss some questions in here. What, did mushrooms for the first time earlier? Wow, yeah. Wait for the angel. I'm glad you had a great time. Yeah, mushrooms, what a magical experience. If you manage to eat mushrooms and you don't have a tummy ache and you don't get fucking the runs, it's such a beautiful experience. I mean, like, usually when those things happen, it's just like kind of not having a good time. But oh man, that's why, like, even though they say like eat mushrooms on an empty tummy, like that is to like get the maximum effect. Maybe if you're doing 5 dry grams or whatever, but if you're going on a hike, you know, like maybe eat some bread or something too. I think that might help. I know you didn't ask that, but I'm glad you had a great time. Sometimes I bring things up and I'm like, okay, now I have to explain myself. Right on. Having a great time, Origination. Great. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're here. All good in the hood? Right on. Smiley Peak collab podcast. Right on. I'm up for it. Western Gulu's Kit's got it right. Kaplan's got a capitalism. That's right. Oh, here's a question. Why do you think Terence McKenna is more embraced by the current psychedelic wave than, say, Leary? Is it the politicalness, prolificness, rather, or something else? I think there's 2 main reasons. Is that one is that Terence McKenna came out in a different time that's actually closer to our modern time, and those tapes, more people had tapes in the 90s than they did in the 60s. I think that's a big reason. I think Timothy Leary is probably like a more famous name. He doesn't have as big of a cult of personality anymore, and I think that's because he's kind of really cringe. He has like a lot of like iffy things about him that's like, ugh. There's a lot of like really cool and badass things, and he's, you know, said some really cool things too. But yeah, he's like just like kind of like that weird, iffy, chaotic character that you don't know how to feel about, you know. He's just like said some like really weird things, like he, like that one thing is that like he was always laughing, so like that would be in like inappropriate times too. Yeah, he was just like, yeah, Timothy Leary was less coherent, I think. Yeah, like he even admitted that when he was like introducing Terence that one time. Terence, like, when he would be, sometimes he would like be like extra flowery, or whatever, but he knew what he was saying, and he can like articulate it very much better than Timothy Leary, and plus there was more recorders then, so I think that's the main reason. Terence is less cringy. I mean, we're all cringe to a degree, of course. So, what's your take on Delta 8? Have you tried it? I'm not sure about that. If anybody wants to explain that to me. I don't know what Delta 8 is. Thoughts on you? Oh yeah, Thoughts on really helped me out. I really appreciate them. Mildred, yeah, she's had some news that that she couldn't do it anything. No live stream last night, no video today. I watch that. I watch her shit religiously. So honestly, like, I have a suspicion about what it is, but I'm not gonna say it because like that's like her news. She'll release it when she does. I just made I have an assumption. I'm like, is it? I'm not gonna say it though. Jim Jam indeed. We'll be tripping on DMT. Right. How is DMT compared to 5 grams of shrooms? Is it friendlier? Truthfully, I have not done 5 grams of shrooms. I mean, technically I have, but the strain was so weak that I didn't feel anything. I grew it myself, and it was just it was a dud, I guess. Yeah, so like it was like 6 grams and like felt like weaker than 1 gram. So I'm still haven't had that experience. I've had like pretty intense mushroom experiences though, and like briefly out of body stuff. But I think they are similar in the sense that like you are experiencing what it feels like an out of body experience, except mushrooms is obviously much more sustained. I think that very real terror and fear that you will get from like letting go of your ego while your like default mode network is being dampened, it's going to be there either way. It depends on how you do DMT, because again, if it's oral, when things are going through the gut, it's a slow release. That's why you have like a much longer experience. And I guess with salivary glands with salvia, it's a slower experience than smoking still, but still not quite as long as through the gut. It's interesting. It's like it's a middle ground from lungs. And anyways, the thing is with smoking is that it happens so fast. It's really fast and intense. Like you got to be like ready for it, pump yourself up, and just be like, or relax. I don't know. I never know whether to relax or get pumped up before DMT, but it's like your heart automatically starts racing. Same with salvia. Like it's just like, because as soon as it's in your system, you can't turn back, and that's a very that's a very thrilling feeling. And I mean, with mushrooms, it's a pro and a con that like you have more time to digest that, because it's a pro because like, I mean, you can adapt potentially. While with DMT, you're just like, oh shit, and it's happening. It's so fast. It's like holy moly with DMT. It's like going. It felt like I took like 1,000 hits of acid, and instead of like spiking over an hour, it like spiked within the span of 30 seconds. And it's just like going from sober to that is just so jarring. It is so jarring. It's like a literal jar. It's so jarring. See if there's any more questions here. Someone says Delta 8 was very mild. Okay. All right. So back to the questions from the last post. All right. Ray R. Had a good time, as you can tell. Oh, how is it compared to acid? I thought you asked how is it compared to mushrooms. Acid is like you don't really break through. I mean, sometimes you can. Thanks, Maxwell. Hey. Yeah, you can't really break through on LSD, not as easily. It's not as like common. DMT is a breakthrough experience, if that makes sense. So that's like the big distinguisher there. Unless you were doing something like Changa, which is like that's like a weird like middle ground that I haven't explored yet, but according to Psych Substance anyways, it's like very much like a high intensity mushroom experience where it's like I call them daylight visions, as in you might see something in the room, you see your walls warping, shit like that. Because there's like 2 types of visions. There's the ones that's behind your eyes, and there's the ones that are in your room. They might be the same source or whatever, but like once you're like enveloped in the closed eye, like whatever's in your head, and you're no longer in the room thing, that's a whole other experience. And that's what DMT does. It like brings you into what what is perceived as like an entirely different room, an entirely different life. And yeah, that's intense. As it can be intense too. You're like holding on to your seat or whatever, but like, yeah, it's just like where on the scale there. It's more, LSD is more open eye, DMT is closed eye. I think that's what it is. But like, DMT is so strong that you don't actually have to close your eyes. I'm just kind of like saying that figuratively. with other, like if you're doing high dose mushrooms, they say close your eyes, but with DMT, it's just like, when I did it, I've actually filmed myself. I'm not going to show you guys, but like, it was like, what was happening in my head and what was happening in my body were two different things. My eyes were so wide open, right? And I wasn't seeing out my eyes anymore. I was seeing something else. Yeah, but LSD is more like you see out your eyes and there's a lot of distortions. Yeah, hope I'm not over explaining myself. Dolo-splaining. Okay, so Ray R. Yeah, it really depends. Those are self-fractals, yeah. Sometimes I see them when I'm sober, which I'm not. Do you foresee a future where Terence McKenna's idea of the Archaic revival comes true? If so, how long into the future from now, and what shape would you see it take? This was a month ago, so I think I did this video, but like, to answer this question more specifically, I don't think the Archaic revival will come true as Terence described it, because I think he was seeing a phenomenon and I think he mischaracterized it. I think he saw a phenomenon, mischaracterized it, and made wrong conclusions about it. So I don't really agree with his theory there. I think he saw that like surrealism, tattooing, rave dancing, all these things were tendencies for humans to want to go back to that primitive state, like, you know, like anarcho-primitivists or something like that. I kind of, like, a lot of the times when he talks about utopia, it sounds like anarcho-primitivism, to be honest. But, like, here's the thing. With our culture, they really mash together what they call primitive cultures, like that, you know, as in cultures that live and exist today, with a prehistoric time of like human beings that, you know, we've been making theories about, because we obviously don't have much data there. I mean, there's some, but so like I just have this like beef with characterizing some cultures as more advanced. I think it's kind of like inherently biased against some political structures over others. Like, we're like kind of taught to believe that if you're in a loincloth living in the jungle, living in like stick huts or something like that, that's like bad, you know, and that's not necessarily true. I don't think people in those systems should be changed, and I'm not saying those are necessarily superior either. I'm just saying that like we shouldn't see that as like they're like a time capsule of the past or something like that, or they haven't advanced, because we occupy the same time and space, you know. And I think that's led to like a lot of like, I think it was a key thing in colonialism, is what I'm trying to say, that like this whole like effort to advance people, you know, people were characterized as primitive, and that's why I don't really even like the term primitive. I know that like primitivists defend that term or whatever. I don't really like it, just because I don't really like this dichotomy of like, if you have technology that was I don't know, developed later in the human time timeline, that makes you more advanced. Because like as a human being, like for me, for example, like, is there any real difference between me and an indigenous person who hasn't like made contact with Western civilization? Because I don't know how a phone works. I mean, like, I know how it works on the screen, but I wouldn't be able to build a phone. So like, I think that would be snobbish of me to think that I'm actually a more advanced human, you know? That it starts to go, starts to sound eugenicsy or something. Yeah, and to say like we live in a civilized culture and they don't live civilized, it's like, okay, how do you define civilized? You know what I mean? We like, maybe they might be doing some sacrifices, but they don't have jails with like 4 million people in it, or 20 million people, I mean. So, you know, it's kind of like, it's a bit relative, these terms. So I think what Terence saw as primitivist tendencies, archaic tendencies, as he would say, those are always existent. They're not, it's not growing more popular. It's not an archaic revival. It's like those are just like human tendencies, and they're still there, and that like our society manipulates humans into whatever's most beneficial to capitalism. Like at one point, it was most beneficial to have humans to be have like a very tight in group, as in, you know, white supremacy, and they would get farms and they would cultivate the land. It was like a very agricultural thing. And then once it became cities, they started instructing and manipulating humans to do other things, like consuming their products that like are made in factories and stuff like that. And that's what happened like during the Industrial Revolution. So it's not like that, like our archaic needs to like want to like grow stuff, have a garden, hunt, you know. I don't think that's like something that only like primitivists do. I just think that's like kind of like, you know, it's kind of omnipresent. It's something that we still like to do, you know. We're you know, that's my take on it anyways. Like I don't see it as like a big revival and that we're gonna become like fully archaic sized. I think if we experience the collapse of society and their new future, which is like a whole other conversation, then I think we'll see a lot of political structures happen before our eyes. A lot of them form, fall, all sorts of different complex ones. Even ones that claim under the same title will have variation. It'll be like a complex mess. And I'm sure archaic primitivism will have a part in that. I do think that. I see it as a good critique, but like, yeah, there's a lot of schools of thought there too. I think when it comes to like talking about these kind of things, it's more interesting to talk about anarcho-primitivism or anti-civs, those like political streams. You know, go and talk to those guys. Those are cool. I personally, I'm not into Ted Kaczynski, if that's the Unabomber guy. I'm not a fan. But yeah, a lot of people like him. And I think there's a lot of good ideas that come from that side. But yeah, it's a mixed bag, you know. It's more interesting to talk about that kind of stuff than archaic revival, because like, yeah, I think it kind of like mythologizes and can lead to the potential of like kind of like appropriating indigenous culture, you know, because they're still existing. These alternative political structures, they still exist. We can migrate towards that. Yeah. Simulation theory was seductive draw though. Yeah. Thank you again, Maxwell. I really appreciate that. You're spinning. No problem. Ask away. I'm here. I'm all ears. I'll answer dumb questions. Sorry, there's no such thing. You know that. You know that. Orange Nation asks, do you believe we're living in a simulation and certain psychedelics may lift the veil? Yes, a kit, I think, answered that. They said, man, simulation theory has such a seductive draw to it. The inconsequentialism and seeming inability to disprove it. Yeah, like that's kind of where I stand on it. How I'd phrase that is that what does a simulation even mean, and like how would that change anything? You know, it is interesting to think about grand scheme things, about like what is reality to begin with, what's creating the multiverse, and like could we be programmed? And it's like theoretically, like yeah, I could see it, but like to actually believe that we are in a simulation just because we can't really disprove the theory doesn't mean we actually are in it. Because it's not like the type of theory where like, you know, scientists have measured this, you know, this is just like a mind experiment or whatever, and it wouldn't really affect anything. Like what would that really mean for us? Could we start like making pleas to the simulators or something like that? We're gonna start sacrificing people. I don't know. It'd be a hell of a thing to simulate. I mean, there's kind of two theories there. The one is that matter can be simulated and produce like humans and conscious experience, and we're like born into this virtual experience. And then there's the other one that's like, no, your consciousness is we're just programmed your consciousness, and so everything that you're aware of is actually just being simulated like a few seconds or moments before you perceive it or something. So basically the simulation is always one step ahead of you. I think that one's a little bit more plausible, because then it's just like you don't actually have to program every single grain of sand and molecule. It's only when you look at it. But then it's just like, I don't know, that kind of like line of thinking of like, I think it just makes things like too wishy-washy, and like, you know, I think we should just like kind of like have a consensus of like, what kind of substances we're dealing with, you know what I mean? So I hope I'm not explaining things well anymore. My brain's a little bit fried. Oh yeah, speaking of which, I'm gonna grind some up. Okay, so I've been going for an hour. I feel like I could go for longer. I still have more questions to answer. Y'all don't have anywhere to be anyways, right? We're having a great time. Uh, 5 grams of shrooms was extremely horrifying. I hear some people saying DMT is more loving than other psychedelics, and I know people who have done it over 100 times. Does it feel like dying? Yeah, for me, yeah, like both salvia and DMT felt like I was dying. It like had that same experience. Sorry, I'm gonna cough. Good. And yeah, it's scary, but it's not like a type of dying where it's like necessarily painful. I mean, with salvia, it can be painful. Just because it's dysphoric. Works on the same receptors like it's associated with nociception. Damn, this thing's on there. Yeah, I got it. Nociception is the fancy term for like pain canal. Pain receptors. Well, at least it plays a part in it. It's not the whole picture. Yeah. Nociception. If you Wikipedia that MF, it will tell you the nociception can feel like pins and needles, crushing. And I'm like, wait, am I on the Wikipedia for nociception or am I on the Wikipedia for salvia? I can't even tell. There's also a lot of other like real like neurochem stuff that like I don't understand. What do I look like? David Nichols? He's a good chemist though. This is pumping. There's 14 of you here. I hope you add something to the chat. Just yeah, love to hear your voices. Although if I'm just on in the background, it's chill too. We're all vibing. Nociception, yeah. I did say that, right? I said nociception. Did I say something else? Your spending asks, does some of your ego stay intact as you're able to get a more visual consensus? Oh, about DNT, I assume. Right, okay, so this is something. When Terence McKenna described this, he tried to say, like, DMT does not alter your mind. As in, you feel the same, you feel like you are you, and you enter a new space. And I feel like this isn't true. I feel like Terence was kind of like creating a narrative to like really like convince people to take it and make it sound interesting or more like conceivable maybe. I think it's possible that like he like actually felt that way, but I think this speaks to like how psychedelics affect everyone differently. With most DMT reports talk about so I don't know, is that true? I guess like it happens more often with like salvia too, but like bottom line, it's like ego distortion, because what we call the ego, what is like a characterization of like a phenomenon, right? So it's not necessarily like there's like an ego complex in our brain, or like there's a locality of where our ego lies. It's like it's made up of like many different elements, and we characterize that as our ego, and that's like our sense of self, right? So that can be distorted in many different ways, or altered, I mean. And with different psychedelics, it really hits differently. And the trip, it was a trip report I read, it wasn't actually an experience I had, that really like hammered this home was, I think it was on 2CBC or something like that. It was like, it was one of the derivatives of 2CB, but it was like down the chain a little bit, less used or whatever. And this person was like writing as it was happening, and what happened was that like over the course of the experience of this chemical, it was like another layer of the ego was like killed or destroyed, and he's like, he kept thinking he was going to die, and it was just like another layer and another layer, and he just like, by the end of it, he like was just like, he was like, wow, I just didn't know like how many ways I could die, you know what I mean? And not just like in the sense of like how many parts of yourself can like be killed, because like you don't realize how many systems are at play. Like our brains are so complex. There are so many systems that are happening in this moment as we're just chilling, as we're vibing. We're just chilling and vibing, and our brains are like doing like a billion things, like wiggling fingers, eyelids, spatial orientation, color. What am I saying even? Like there's like so many courses of operations that's happening, but our brain tricks us to think that it's just like one little person speaking in a megaphone, or many persons if you have DID, but like, you know, if just like our brain makes us think that there's just like one cohesive thing. There's like a narrative, and things are simple, you know? So to answer your question more shortly, the ego can be altered in all sorts of different ways. Yeah. Hope I'm not getting too existential on you guys. Sorry, I'm gonna take a hit. If you guys have any, then like hit it with me. That'd be dope. Mash Magic, I'm glad you're having a great day. I'm kind of me, but more on DMT. On Salvia is much similar and less more scary beyond me. Oh yeah, to answer your question about what's scarier,
I find, for whatever reason, mushrooms do tend to be more scary. They just like have that like gritty, like there's still like a terror and a fear with all psychedelics, like implications and stuff like that. Like I was like very scared on DMT. Yeah, on DMT I was very scared, but like the visuals aren't creepy like mushrooms. Mushrooms have like teeth and like fleshy stuff, and like it's kind of scary. With DMT, everything is crystalline and amazing. It's like stepping into Atlantis. That's what DMT is like. It's like being sucked up on a mothership, and it's just gorgeous, immaculate. And so like, yeah, stepping into Atlantis and going onto a UFO is scary, but like in that like awe-stricken, like beautiful kind of way. Whereas salvia and DMT, or sorry, salvia and mushrooms, they have scary undertones. They have like wicked smiles, more that, I don't know, DMT also has like a lot of like gesture archetypes in it too, but like in terms of like scary darkness, like I think that's what it really is. It's like salvia and mushrooms have more dark visuals, whereas DMT is so bright. It's like, I don't even know what to compare it to. It's like a bright Atlantis lit, but with like every molecule is like lit up crystal. And it's like, if that's the afterlife, that'd be pretty awesome. But like, I mean, there's so many different psychedelic experiences out there. I don't know if they would give accurate reflections. Have you listened to Sad Guru? Any thoughts? Orange Nation, don't even get me started on Sad Guru. Oh my god. I don't like gurus or any like, they're just any capitalist speaker that goes up on stage and like tries to like sell you things. Like, oh gosh, especially what makes me mad about Sad Guru, and like it's when they have like they say they're leaders or whatever, and like so their opinions are so valid or whatever, but then they'll say something completely pseudoscientific, and it's something so baseless, and it's just like, okay, who is challenging you? You know, when did you get this authority that you know best? You know, they cultivate like a aesthetic and like a gimmick, and try to like play off like they have all the answers or something like that. What really like hit me off for Sad Guru, because like I was like listening to him for like kind of like the same way I would listen to Alan Watts, like for like ways to like, basically it's more about coping with reality. How do we like learn how to relax? How do we be zen? You know, that kind of stuff. But he was just like, you know, you cannot smoke weed. I'm a pot smoker, Sad Guru. He was like saying that it's bad and like it brings you down and it's bad. Like he was just saying like all this like awful like unscientific stuff, and it was just like, you know, these are like marginalized people, pot smokers. I mean, like, I know, I'm not trying to say like they're like the most marginalized folks or whatever, but like people are being persecuted for smoking weed, and like for you to like be a leader on stage and like claim all this like incorrect, factually incorrect shit about it, and just like stick your nose up and be like, no, it's not the way, it's bad, no drugs are bad. Like he said that about psychedelics too. It's like, just like all drugs are bad, stay pure. And it's like, I don't think you understand what drugs are if that's your position, because like what, you know, in reality, like what things actually are, we're like in this like chemical soup, you know? We eat things to get nutrition, and I know that's like a trope to be like, your strawberries are a drug, didn't you know that? But like, to an extent, it's true. I mean, we are chemical beings, you know? And we are constantly altered by things, by news, by information, by experiences, by sights, by sounds. We are constantly being influenced by things. And I think there is actually autonomy to be gained by like saying like, I want to experience what this drug has to offer. I think there's like, I think it's a great autonomy. I think it's great exploration without, you know, it can be a very safe way actually of doing exploration, like psychological exploration. And you know, I don't think we're always meant to be like looking for any answers, you know. It's what's satisfying, like what it might make you feel good, it might make you feel interesting, it might just be different, you know. And like I think like people like SiqN, they just like, they don't think about people's circumstances, you know. We might like, you know, middle class people might be like, oh man, how could someone do heroin? How could someone do that, or smoke crack? You know, it's just like, you don't live in those circumstances, you know. It's a different world. People like, I mean, like, we're all living in the same world, but like people have like different lives and lifestyles and like life experiences, and like it's hard coping with that kind of stuff. It really is. And yeah, like there's bottom line, just do like, I just would encourage you to do as much research as possible and like do things as safely as possible for your own sake. Like take care of yourself. Oh, I missed a lot. Bunch of smiling cats, cool. Like Cheshire cats. Mushrooms can get judgy, lol, but I can tell them to stop altering my mood. Yeah. Yeah, I do, like, there's, like, something interesting about certain psychedelics creating, like, I don't know what, if you'd call them alter egos or others, but it's, like, basically opens up a way of communication with your own self or your own mind as influenced by the chemical that you're taking, or, like, by how that chemical is influencing your brain. It's like, it's really interesting to have like conversations with yourself. I heard this like method, my buddy was telling me about it, of how to do it during lucid dreaming. If you like really get good at lucid dreaming, you can set up a scenario where there's like another person where you can talk to, and basically you know that you're talking to yourself. And that's wild. Yeah, that'd be interesting to have those conversations. I haven't really been able to. I've definitely heard voices on psychedelics, and almost like that definitely feels like presences in others. But like, again, I think these are like just like mechanisms that are happening like in our minds, you know. Like, as a kid, I projected life onto like inanimate objects all the time. Hello there, Mr. Lamp. That kind of shit. Or just like my toys, I loved them to death. I'd probably kill someone for my toys, you know, because like they were people. I didn't actually believe they were people, but like, you know, it's like, I'm just, you know, people have conversations with themselves, you know, in other circumstances too. And I think whatever psychedelics are doing, they like really bring that ability to do that. And we might be able to do some neat stuff with it. But that's the thing, they're not always accurate, you know. They can lie. They can be wrong, you know. It's not like an all-knowing God voice. Keep that in check. Even if they're hyper-intelligent aliens, it's like, even hyper-intelligent aliens aren't the smartest all the time, you know? Who knows what kind of fuckery this is. Mushrooms feel so pure. Acid feels like hot gears of a machine, to me at least. Yeah, I never felt that, to be honest. Mushrooms don't really feel pure to me. I think DMT was the closest thing that felt like pure. It was like just like so smooth. Mushrooms, they got close, but like they always had like a little bit of like an icky feeling for me, because like maybe it was just the method of ingestion or whatever. Just like trouble digesting. It's like a digestive issue. But with acid, it more gives me like a headache. Like my head feels like cement or something. Doesn't feel like hot gears to me. Although I do get like what I call a familiar phlegm, and like I just have to keep spitting out these like god awful loogies, which isn't a fun time. Which is kind of why I'm more interested in Salvia and DMT now, because like it's not like a whole day thing that I have to deal with. It could be like a set time ordeal, and I don't know. As someone with chronic pain and chronic nausea, my life was vastly improved since Canada legalized weed. Legalized weed. Wayfair Angel. Yeah, honestly, like it has improved mine too. I had to keep myself in check. Like, yeah, like I was living for a long time where it was like this was like illegal, and this is still kind of like taboo. I'm like, YouTube might like give me a hard time about this. Sometimes they do. But like, cause they're American, it's wild. It's like I don't think people give enough shit about how harmful war on drugs rhetoric is. I'm gonna adjust this a little bit. Yeah, it's that's why we need to legalize all drugs. Like we are like making our environment so much more harmful than it needs to be. It really does not need to be this way. And yeah, going back to Sadhguru, this like F off, like people need their medication, and exploration of the mind is a good thing. Let's see. Orange Nation. So when are you going on Tales of the Trip? We need you, Shane Moss and Duncan Trussell, to do a collab. Oh my gosh. I need to look up who Sean Moss is. Go into a different playlist. I didn't ask for this. YouTube just like boots me out every hour or something, I guess. It started before I started this. Yeah, Duncan Trussell's alright, I think. I mean, I don't like... Oop. I accidentally put myself on. Yeah, like I get apprehensive around people that don't see a problem with Jordan Peterson. Like, if anybody like takes that guy seriously, like I question everything about that person. Just like, I'm not trying to say like if you like Jordan Peterson you're a bad person or anything, but rather that like either you're willfully ignorant or you're just like not like aware of how horribly cringy that dude is. But yeah, like Duncan Trussell seems pretty alright. I really liked that show he did with Pendleton Ward. Why can't I think of the name right now? Everyone knows it. Yeah, but yeah, I like, you know, sometimes you like envision yourself like, oh, what if I did like get like really big or whatever. Like, I'm not sure if I'm the type of person that would want to like go on like, I think I want to be choosy about who I like and talk to. I'm not gonna just talk to anybody. Yeah. I want to have good conversations, you know, not just for clout. Although I'll look up Shane Moss. I don't know who Shane Moss is. I might already know who he is, but like, let's see. Midnight Gospel. Thank you, everyone. Thanks. Yeah, Midnight Gospel was awesome. Yeah, and it's like so like Duncan Trussell's all right. He's all right. Like he's as like all of us. He's been cringe. As Hank. But yeah, I haven't actually even listened to the podcast that he did with Jordan Peterson, just to hear what they were talking about or whatever. But like, you know, that's like here's another example. Fucking Neil deGrasse Tyson. Ever since he went on the Ben Shapiro show a while ago, ever since I've been like, I'm sorry, that's just like, it makes me very apprehensive around the person. Personal thing. Right. So, last question of this community post that I did a month ago. So I'm going to be answering questions. Don't worry, it's not the end, everyone. The Insanity is Palpable asks, what strategies ought we employ when pursuing policies such as decriminalization or outright legalization of psychoactive substances? What are your thoughts on this issue generally? Like, I have complex thoughts on this, because right now the big thing, like what we think of the psychedelic renaissance, it's like this, it's a psychopharmaceutical therapy renaissance, where like we're really trying to prove that psychedelics are medicine. They have like great purpose, and like we need to be using these. Like it's actually like imperative we use these. It's not just like a frivolous like drug that you do for fun or something like that and trip balls or whatever. It actually has like a lot of clinical and like practical uses. And you know, if that works, then like I'm not gonna like, you know, jump up and hit that ball out of anybody's hands, because like any way that we can make this society less shitty than it is, then like all the power to it. But where I get frustrated is that I feel like we shouldn't be trying to, like, movements like Decriminalize Nature, or like people that try to say weed isn't a drug. It's like, I feel like you're stepping on other people's heads in order to make you feel like you're like exceptional, you know? But instead of like a person, it's like a class of drugs, you know? Like psychedelics aren't better than like opioids, you know? They're just completely different things. Like that, the qualitative difference is like a human judged rating. Like obviously I'm more interested in psychedelics, this is my personality, but to say that psychedelics are better than other drugs, or therefore more deserving of legalization, I think that's just a great fallacy, and we're leaving a lot of the most vulnerable drug users in the dirt when we do that. But like if this is like a foot in the door, where like we can like, you know, once it's weed, then it's mushrooms, and then LSD, and then like once you got LSD, and then you can like get other classes of drugs through the door of legalization. Like again, like if we can get one drug somewhat legalized, like that is better than not, right? But like that's the thing, like that's why I'm an abolitionist. Like reform is just like such a fool's errand. They like so easily put out these policies where they like violently criminalize all these classes of drugs and say they're all terrible conclusively with no scientific evidence. And yeah, it's been decades upon decades of like people being like making all these different arguments, when I think it should just be like the overall humanitarian argument that like, no, actually, psychedelic substances, all psychoactive substances, shouldn't be destroyed. People should be allowed to use those. So like I personally could not like put my like energy into like doing something where I feel like it's half-assed, like I don't want to like I'm like an all or nothing kind of type of person because of like how like imperative everything is right now. Like, if there's just so many issues, like I'm like the drug YouTuber or whatever, but like there's so many things that I care about, truthfully, and I like this is like it's an intersectional thing. So to like, it's kind of hard to be like, I am the anti-drug war person, and then like totally like not be decolonial or not be understanding of like black liberation movements or something. Like, you have to like be very intersectional about like our approach with these kind of things. Like, the drug war is heavily tied in to colonialism, to slavery, to its like entire past or whatever. So to think that like just by a goof these politicians thought these drugs are bad and the best way to handle it is by punishing drug users, it's just like, it's so not true. It's like it's just like an upgraded sophistication of what the state was built off of, what these Western states were built off of. That's slavery, that's white supremacy, that's capitalism. I think it's kind of a fool's errand to think that you can actually end the drug war through reform. Like, there's a reason why it's in place, and it's there to punish the lower class in order to regulate on their terms. They want they don't want to have those legal. I just don't see it. It's there's a reason why it was really hard for the states to end slavery. They did it later than other countries, but like in general it was hard transition because they built a society that necessitated it. It's not just like it helps or it's a benefit. It was necessitated. And like even today, like a lot of injustices are necessitated by a really, really pseudoscientific, awful economic system that has like, human ethics is a peripheral thing to capitalism. It's not the guiding force. If you listen to any politician, unless they're like a fringe side party, they're prioritizing the economy. They're always reassuring you, we're going to get the economy going. We want the economy good. And then when they're not talking about the economy, they're like posting some other pseudo-scientific thing about like fucking, the state being great, and that like through virtue of being born in that country, you're also great and have all these values assigned to you or whatever. I'm pretty stoned. Got a sploof. What was even the original question? That's what I want to know. Right, like, so pursuing strategies to decriminalizing. Any and all strategies is my true answer, because like, I obviously, any issue when it comes to capitalism, I want to say revolution. That's my go-to, but that's not realistic always. It's not like that. It's not that easy. So if you can even legalize one aspect, even just a little bit, if that's like an opportunity, it should be seized upon. But for me, that's not where I put my energy into. I'm pretty sure I said that, but summing up. My cat's here with me now. You want to see her? It's a chill stream. It's very hot in our apartment. Everyone say hi to Mitts. Give text chin scritches. Thanks, Wayfair Angel. She is a good cat. She's honestly like, I'm so lucky to have her. She was just being given out for free on Kijiji one day. My partner Kit saw the ad and brought it up, and I was like, let's do it. And she's just been like the best kitten. We just got this person was just like, here, take her, I don't want her. And we're like, yeah, sure, we'll take her out of the sitch. She's happy ever since. She gets all the chin scratches. She gets wet food every day, twice a day. And maybe we can get us both in there. I don't know. Maybe not. Not really. Oh well. See if I can actually get it back to where we were. Is that it? Not exactly, no, is it? It was probably good. I hope I'm not making you queasy. Okay. Cubensi Frenzy, I'm glad you're here. Yes, Ben Shapiro down, that's for sure. You're spinning, cat's too cute. No, thanks. Yes, she's really great. She's like 3, I think. 2 or 3. So young. So weird to like think like back like 4 years ago and be like, wow, this cat didn't exist. This cat didn't exist. Not yet. I don't get the stigma against tripping balls. Rabbits make stuff to trip balls with. So do elephants. Why is alcohol better? Yeah, honestly, like that's the thing. Like it's a natural thing to want to experiment with drugs. That's a totally fine, natural thing that shouldn't like damage your credibility or social standing whatsoever. I think it's more so what like about your character or whatever. Like, cause obviously I feel like I think there is a potential, like I've seen like with people who use psychedelics, cough cough me, who get too enthralled in the experiences, tend to like, you know, kind of be awkward to bring to a family gathering or whatever, because like all you can talk about is like psychedelics or whatever, or you're just like too far out all the time or whatever, and then that can be cringy, but like that's like not necessarily true. Like, you know, I feel like I could be taking more psychedelics than I would be then, and I'd probably be less cringy in that respect. Hopefully. God, I always like look back like a few months ago and be like, wow, that was so cringy of me. Like, I'm glad I'm not cringy anymore. Saying that word a lot tonight, aren't I? Oh yeah, and about why is alcohol better? I hate this so much. Everyone always says drugs and alcohol. Makes no sense. There's nothing about alcohol that separates it from not being a drug. There's no distinction. Absolutely none. There's no distinction between medicine and drugs either, really. Like they're just like classifications, you know? There's like, what is the chemical? What are the effects? You know, how can it be administered? Yeah, so what, like ethanol, alcohol, it's a drug. It's a drug. I only had, or Aurora Eve asks, or says, I only ever hear bad things about people who talk about psychedelics, Terence McKenna. Are they Are there any you recommend? Joe Rogan seems not great, question mark. Kind of hoping for intersectional lefty people. Yeah, I'm on the look for that too. Yeah, but like the thing is that like there's not like in terms of psychedelics, there's not too many leftists talking about it. Thought Slime is an exception. She talked about it a few times. There was I think Angie Speaks did too. Angie Speaks has done some pretty good essays too. I'm not sure if I know her name, but I can like I got it saved. She did one on Jordan Peterson's archetypes or whatever, or no, Jungian archetypes, and then like talked about how like it was influenced about psychedelics and stuff. It was so good. I want to say Cassie something. If anybody knows the video I'm talking about, it's like an hour long, but it was really good. But yeah, in terms of like, I don't know if I want to get into the Joe Rogan bag right now, but like just over time, I just like realized like he's really not where it's at. Just like done too many things. Like, you know, like, no, Joe Rogan isn't like Ben Shapiro bad, but also Ben Shapiro has been on his show quite a number of times. That's kind of like, that's what Joe Rogan is. So, I'll talk about him some other time. That's because that's like just like a whole thing. But like, yeah, I should like come up with a good playlist or something like that for like other lefties. Because like right now, YouTube, I think it's like, they're like big mountainous egos where like who pool all of the subscribers or whatever who like have these big channels, but there was like some like really great channels who just like film on their cell phone, like low quality or whatever, and I think those messages need to be amplified as well. Like you know, we should also be investing our interest into like people who cannot afford the time to do high production stuff, because their voices are probably even more valid than people being able to do high production stuff. Like I just noticed that like with like leftist YouTubers, like the bigger they get, they like kind of like lose their relatability a little bit. There's actually like a big argument right now about Hassan B, big I was gonna say politigrammer, a political debater, live streamer, and he bought like a $2.4 million home, and so like some people are saying he's being doxxed. I don't know if it's actually that extreme, but like there's like a big controversy of like, can you be a socialist and be rich? And yeah, a lot of people are on the defense of like, you can buy a house, like it's fine to buy a house, because like one thing is like $2.4 million, it is a lot of money, but it's not as much as it once was. Like obviously like $1 million was like a very, very expensive thing like 100 years ago. Now it's like not as big of a deal. Like it doesn't mean like he paid it outright. Man, but what was my point? What was my point though? If only I could remember my point. Yeah, Twitter's a wild place. Maybe that was my point. I don't think it was. I had a point. It's just gone. But you know, it's a chill stream, so like, can we expect my sentences to have points? No. No, we shouldn't. It's always about power and control, marketed as a better way. Yeah. That's a good cat. Cass Eris, yeah. Kit got it. Cass Eris. Wayfarer Angel, you also got it. Ito always dulls the trip. I'm not sure what that means. Symposia is a collective of lefty psychedelic activists. Hey, cool, yeah. Anybody who knows like psychedelic leftists, like shout them out down here. I know there was like a couple streamers, like there's the Acid Left, or like yeah, the Acid Left, I'm pretty sure is their streaming title. They like do streams too. Most like psychedelic leftist YouTubers I notice are streamers. And I just like, sometimes I find streams like, you know, they can be hard to get into, you know, like I do want to get more into streaming. I might actually do this more often, but on like my side channel or something. I'll let you know if I do. Yeah, but like, yeah, it's hard to digest. There's a lot of like dead air, awkwardness. You know, when it's unedited, you have to deal with mic problems, sounds, whatever happens, which is like kind of like a joy of it, but like can be hard. Wayfair Angel says Joe Rogan is an anti-vaxxer. He goes on the island with anti-maskers and they get the occasional supply drop until they kill each other off. Honestly, like, I don't know. It wouldn't surprise me as Alex Jones on his show enough. Like, yeah, it's like, that's the thing about, like, people who say they're, like, apolitical or centrists or whatever. It's like, okay, well, where do you stand then, you know? Whose side are you on? It's like they just try to obscure it so they don't have to, like, they feel like they could just be outside of it or something like that. It's like, ugh. Bugs me. Yeah, Kit started a script. Oh, yes. How could I forget? Everyone should say happy birthday to Kit and thank them for helping me with my skits. On Sunday, they are turning 24, and it's going to be a great day. That's the only reason why we have alcohol right now. It's because it's like, okay, I guess it's drinking weekend. Yes. Happy birthday to them. They really deserve it. Yeah. Oh, no, I will not stop. Honestly, Kit's a gem. Kit's a gem. Did a Salvia trip report on April Fool's Day last year. I don't know. It's like I don't really like. It's weird because I feel like I have a bit of a different audience now than I did last year. Since my channel has grown since then, been putting out more content. But yeah. So if you're not familiar with my stuff from last year, which is definitely like even more rough around the edges. Yeah, there's a good one on April Fool's Salvia trip report. Check it out. Yeah, can't believe we're 24 already. Jeez, love them. One island, the anti-vaxxers and the anti-maskers, they don't get to hurt anyone but each other, and we drop them all the supplies they need. Honestly, it almost sounds like Reddit Island, but like politically or like enforced, you know. I do like that idea, like, cause like I really wish, like that's the thing that like anti-maskers and anti-vaxxers don't understand, is that like they think they're flexing their autonomy when they're actually stripping other people of their autonomy. And so like it would be really nice if they were just somewhere else. I just don't think that's plausible without doing severe harm. Although like, yeah, you could make the argument they'll do more harm without that. Yeah, it's not happening. I wouldn't. Yeah, there's got to be other ways. Orange Jason says, what are your thoughts on Bernie Sanders? I hear you talking about libertarianism, but you sound more liberal than that. Yes, I would say I'm an ANCOM, although like I'm like much more like I don't know. I tend to disagree with other ANCOMs a lot of the time. Like, for example, like my opinions on the state. I do think the state is a necessary thing until like there's like more of like a global communist revolution or something like that. But like, because like there's a lot of like ANCOMs who like are like, let's just like get rid of the state right away, and it's just like I don't really see that happening unless we like do like really like more of like the small micro ANCOM thing. Like that might be like an aspect of it. Because like yeah, there's like all these like different methods to like revolution or whatever, but like my when I talk about liberals, I'm talking about Democrats. You know, I'm talking about the bourgeois party that's basically the same thing as the Republican Party but nicer. Yeah, there are like differences in their policies, but they are both representatives of a class that's not for the lower class, you know. That's why when they're the two-party system's playing hot potato, and the lower class just keeps getting fucked over and fucked over and fucked over. Like that's not, we're not going to be able to vote our way out of that. Liberals, you know, they want to like say Democrats are actually good, but they don't understand that Democrats are just better at hiding their dirt. You know what I mean? Like Obama is nothing to be like someone to be like happy about, or like, you know, the Obamas are not like a good thing. I sometimes find myself having to defend them against like, you know, right wing or reactionaries who hate them because I don't know, some vague thing about vaxxing or not being American or something like that. Like that's obviously bullshit. But like, you know, every single like president and like major politician in Western civilizations are like pretty well recognized war criminals. Like they've done very shady stuff. They got dirt and blood, and you know, how do we just like keep voting for the lesser evil while like there's still like a huge faction of right-wing people who really think the better, more sane alternative is to lean into nationalism, lean into exceptionalism, anti-immigration, controlling women's bodies, determining definitively that there are like a certain amount of genders and there are these roles for these people. This is the way things are. Like, oh my gosh. Like I'm in a rambling mode. So yeah, bottom line, that when I think liberal, I think Democrat or whatever. Bernie Sanders is more left than liberal, but he's still fairly capitalist. His whole program. Okay, I cut off there for a second. Still with me? Cool. Yeah, Bernie Sanders was saying that like he wasn't taking billionaire donations or whatever, so he's like less capitalist. But like yeah, he wanted to bring in some socialism. It's like kind of like a mediary halfway, but like this is as we could see with like how he was like slandered against, and like how the news kind of like in the press like helped suppress him. We can see that people with more wealth are able to gain more influence because they have the power to do so. Wealthy people have the power to advertise more, so that's why they will always beat out the poor competition. We're stronger together, but like we're atomized by our work schedules, our hustle culture, shit like that. It's really hard to organize right now. There's been like so many roadblocks and obstacles set up in our way, so many like complex fucking situations. It's just hard to cut through. But like yeah, I'm not pro-establishment as the way it is because I'm a decolonialist. Like the history of capitalism and colonialism, I think, is what was the devastating thing that happened. That's why I disagree with Ted Kaczynski. Hey, I'm looping back to Ted Kaczynski now. He thought Industrial Revolution was the disaster of humankind, and I don't think that is. I don't think agriculture was the disaster, as imprims say sometimes. I think it was colonialism. It's the capitalist incentivization of like profit-driven ways of being, a competitive way of being, instead of like just allowing people to live because like, hey, you're alive, you have the right to live and the right to well-being. That's not what capitalism does. You know, they say, hey, you're alive, now you owe us. You better get to work or else you're not getting food, and you don't like it, you can leave, as in starve in the forest or something like that. Because that's like the huge thing that colonialism did. It's not just that they like enslave people, but like they also eliminate any alternative, you know, they like destroy any alternative. That's one of the biggest things that they do. Like for example, when during the colonization of Canada, they just killed like off all the buffalo in the plains, like damn near extinct. That was a major resource, food source for numbers of families, like thousands and thousands of people. They just like eliminated their food source so that they can put them into small reserves and feed them sludge, you know what I mean? And this is like a way of controlling the population, you know? It's the for-profit mindset that's doing this. And I think I put most emphasis on that aspect, capitalism, but yeah, behind that there are other factors too, of like unchecked assumptions about like what it is to be a man. It's kind of sad. Like I think a lot of people are insecure about their gender, and so they need to feel like they're the top dog. They need to get more and more wealth. They need to like be seen as bigger to their peers and stuff like that. There's a lot of ways like capitalism like feeds into like our like worst nature, you know. When people say, oh, humans are naturally greedy or something like that, like, I mean, yeah, humans can be greedy when they're put in certain circumstances. Kind of like if you put two people in a death pit and throw down some weapons and you say fight to the death, whoever wins gets some food. Like obviously like people would rather not kill each other, but I mean, if you put them in that situation, they might be forced to kill each other. You know what I mean? Like it's the situation you put them in. It's the economic system I mean. And yeah, so I think there are better alternatives out there, but it's not going to be allowed to be voted in. Like power is not just going to be like redistributed on what's the word? Freely, and like, you know, without resistance. That's just not gonna happen, you know. There needs to be a major standoff where it's like you redistribute that power, like, or else. And I think the best, least violent way to do that is by having numbers. And the way you get numbers is through media. And I don't think my media particularly is going to be reaching the most masses. I'm pretty like eccentric, I know that, but I'm hoping that like we should be building up the YouTube community to prop up as many low class, infrequent YouTube videos, bad quality, whatever. Just say your mind. We need to like be communicating. It's a communication device. You know, not just like this is why YouTube is better than TV. It's a communication device, you know? We get to talk to each other, we get to connect, share ideas. But yeah, I think that's the best way though, because like other revolutions that tend to be more bloody is that like there's a small fraction of the population who think they know what's best for everyone, and so they try to like do a coup or something like that on behalf of everyone, and yeah, and that can like lead to a lot of like bad consequences. It's a hard fight. It can just be like an endless spiral of violence, you know what I mean? But if there's like enough numbers where you can have like a strong, swift transition, you can do a revolution that's like minimally violent and like minimally traumatic, you know? Like I think there's going to be an inherent collective trauma to this, but that doesn't mean that like we can just do whatever the hell we want, or that like, you know, because like once people get a taste of anarchy, they can feel like they can do whatever they want. But like, no, we have to like, consequences still need to be dealt with, you know? That doesn't go away no matter what political system you have. So it's I know I'm rambling. I'm rambling. Yes. No matter what political system you have. Reddit Island, or Eve asks, was that like a Tumblr high school? Sorry if I don't know what that was. It was just a cringy 2012 thing that some kids came up with. It was probably similar. I don't know Tumblr high school. Personally, I wasn't a Tumblr kid. Maybe Kit knows a little bit better. Yeah, they said the same basic principle, and ironically, I dreamed of going to Tumblr high school in 2012. Yeah, Reddit Island was like a very like I don't know what you would call them. They're like the edgelords of Reddit thought that they could buy an island and I'll just move there. So basically, like, the only reason why people haven't done this is because they haven't organized to do this. But they had like really no plan, and it was like mostly a joke. But then like at one point they thought they actually could get the island. Someone was actually promising. They're like, hey, my dad actually just gave me this, inherited it, he just died. And so they actually thought they were going to get this island, but it ended up being a scam. So it's just like a sad story, that nothing story, but like it was a thing though. People really had this dream that they would move to Reddit Island, and it would be like fucking, god damn it, what's that game? Minecraft. Can't believe I forgot that name for a second. Wayfair Angel. I'ma just say every president has been American, and they've all pretty much sucked. Coincidence? Yeah, probably not. I don't know as much about like other countries and their politicians, but they definitely all have baggage. I know a little bit more about Britain too, but like I know American governments and Britain governments mostly because like they're like the two biggest competitors or biggest forces when it comes to colonialism. Like Tony Blair gives me the chills. Margaret Thatcher, don't get me started. Tories, man. They actually, I didn't realize this, but they actually call the Conservatives here in Canada Tories too. I was surprised about that. I didn't know about that. But it makes sense because Canada still like really kisses Britain's boot. But more just like symbolically now, I guess, or what would you call that? There's a term for it, like that type of monarchy, representative monarchy or something like that. Basically, they're just like, they're there just for show. Yeah. Orange Nation says, yeah, but man, people are compassionate at heart and we need to look out for each other. Government is for the people, by the people at the root of it. FDR did so much during the Great Depression. Oh, geez, FDR, man. Oh, I don't know. Well, it's like, here's the thing. with any president, you might get a mixed bag. Like, even like the lowest of the low, like George Bush or something. You know, I don't know. Like, you can basically name any president. It's like, oh yeah, that's lowest of the low. But no, they've like, I could say if I gave 100 kids lollipops, that's really nice of me. Yeah, that makes me a good person. That, you know, that looks good on my character. But I also punched one of those kids in the face. You know, it does, like, those 100 lollipops doesn't outweigh that, like, violence I just did to, like, a small child. I'm sorry I used that example. But bottom line, like, just because someone does some good things doesn't mean they're a good person. And America is a colonialist empire that's just, like, ruthless, you know? It doesn't matter what president, it's really bad. Like, probably the, like, least bad I can think of is friggin', like, Jimmy Carter. But even him, he was still, like, maintaining this, like, flow of funds to right-wing paramilitary groups and death squads in Indonesia, or sorry, in East Timor and friggin', yeah, it was Indonesia, and also started Operation Cyclone, which started funding the Mujahideen, which you know, eventually evolved, or at least a faction evolved into the Taliban. So, you know, and that's like the best president I can think of. Like, every president, you don't go into the White House without getting blood on your hands. And it's the blood of minorities, the most vulnerable people. And colonialism is very sophisticated, and they do it overseas for a reason, you know? They need to prop up that, like, you know, there's this, like, good American homeland, that mythology that they create while they commit violence domestically and abroad. But that's the thing, that's why propaganda is really messed up. It's like, we can, like, look back to the 20s and be like, oh wow, what a great time, and totally forget, like, the KKK was, like, still, like, doing its thing. It's like, you know, it might have been, like, a good time to be white in the city, you know, but you're not really thinking about, you know, the people in the dictatorships and all the, like, freaking South American countries, you know what I mean? Like, even under FDR, he was still overseeing massive repression all throughout Latin America and South America. Like, I'm pretty sure that was during La Violencia and stuff in the Banana Wars. Like, there's a crisis at the equator for a reason, you know. There's there's a reason why poor countries are poor, you know, and it's because of America. It's all America's fault. And Britain. Poop tastes good if you believe it's chocolate. M3. Nice troll. It's good. Yeah, but that's the thing, like, if you, like, really believe hard enough, it, like, you can, like, really manipulate your brain. Like, if taking your comment seriously, like, you can, like, do, like, some pretty incredible things. But, you know, there's only so far that bootstrap mentality really goes. Like, you can really believe in yourself, but sometimes that's just not enough to, like, counter the reality of the situation, you know? The human mind is incredible sometimes, but, like, you know, is also not the most accurate all the time. Oh my god, just the messengers showed up again. I was literally just talking about them. Oh, taste and see what the Lord is good. Psalm 34:8. Oh, I just love it when people, like, quote Bibles in my chat. Yeah. Like, do you think like you're gonna convert me this way? Just by quoting the Bible in my chat? Like, I know you're trying to get some of us, but like, don't fall for this. Like, this is... Honestly, just the messengers, do you actually like my channel, or do you just come here to try to like get more like Christians to follow you or something like that? Like, I don't understand. You like leave like the most incomprehensible freaking messages. Yeah, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, earth and Hades hell, I shall fear no evil, for the psychedelics are with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Yeah, it's like, you know, when you like speak in riddles, you can like interpret it so many different ways. Yeah, I don't fall for it. How do you deal with pre-trip anxiety, Kenneth? Honestly, that I wish I knew. I think there's like anything you can do that, like, if there's something that's causing you anxiety, like there's a phone call you need to make that phone call. If it's giving you anxiety that your bedroom is totally a mess, neaten it up beforehand. If something like tomorrow is giving you anxiety, you don't want to trip beforehand, maybe do that first and then do it. And I know sometimes this can like lead to like an endless like I'll do it later because anxiety, pre-trip anxiety. But like, it just like really curate that time. It may be like a 10-minute experience or something like that, but you really curate that space, you know? Just try to identify any things that like give you anxiety. If you're gonna have someone there with you, like let them know, just be honest with them about like what gives you anxiety, what gives you good vibes, and what you would like, you know? And I think that's the best advice I can give, because like usually like if, you know, you can like just take a Xanny or something like that if you have anxiety, or like there are pharmaceutical options, but I don't know, like I think it's just different for everyone, because like maybe some people get really relaxed listening to meditative music. Other people, it might like drive them up the wall. So like if something relaxes you or causes eases your anxiety, then yeah, just do those things. Like it's a real praxis of like trying to find out where where your anxieties are and stuff. So that'd be my explanation. It's not like a clear set guide. Step 1, confront anxiety. Step 2, it's a orientation. How old are you, my man? You're wise beyond your years. Oh, thanks. I really appreciate that. I'm 27. And sorry for coughing right there. I don't know how I feel about the whole like wise thing. I really appreciate the gesture, but honestly, it's just like the internet and Wikipedia. Like if you're like interested in something, you just like look it up or whatever. And like sometimes you gotta like look into things that might scare you in order to like learn. Like I think sometimes like, especially when it comes to like if you are like a patriotic person, you won't really want to know just how bad and violent your government is or something like that, so you might want to like not look into it. Or maybe it's just like it's just too much for you. But like if you're like benefiting from a colonial system, then like we should know our enemy, or sorry. It's still your enemy, because like even like in our benefits of the colonial system, it's still killing us. You know what I mean? Like even the most privileged bourgeois people are destroying the planet. You know what I mean? So it's like we need to like really recognize what we're doing in order to like help shift these things. I need your spinning says I need to make that phone call. Oh yeah, I know what you're saying now. I'm just saying there's a lot of cannibalism in the Bible. Yeah, seriously. Why does God want us to eat him? Does he need help? It sounds like he needs the therapist. Honestly, God is like such an emotional person. You would swear that God was actually just like an alter ego of like some frustrated white dude or something, but not necessarily white, maybe. It could have been added in later. Anyways, what's your most fantastical mystical belief? That's endured is the real question. I think it's mostly the dimensional stuff. Like rather just like in terms of like dimensions and consciousness, about that possible intersection. That there's this theory that like I'm kind of like maybe it's pretty far out. It might be totally fucking garbledy-gook pseudoscience, but like what if like what we experience as consciousness is actually just a one-dimensional slice of like what we're experiencing on like a 2D plane or something like that, or that like we experience many different dimensions that like build up our reality. Man, I can't even explain it right now. It was tied in with the zipper, the whole Salvia zipper thing, that like there seems to be like actually some locality of like where like reality begins and non-reality ends. Yeah. There's like the intersection of like our perception and like the nothingness, the void or something. And it's like just like I was looking really into like dimensional explanations for that, but like I kind of stopped researching that, and I might pick it back up again, because like I think there is something there, but yeah, I'm more interested in social justice now, like more tangible, like because like the whole thrill about psychedelics is that they're life enriching, right? It's hard to enrich your life if you're dealing with poverty, you know? So like, and especially it's hard to enrich your life when the global temperature is getting warmer and warmer every day. Like I am very hot right now. We are at 1.1 degrees Celsius for the global temperature. There's no avoiding we're going to get up to 1.5. I do not look forward to that day. That's going to be very hot. And I wish I could say that it's not going to get any hotter than 1.5. Because it's going to be devastating for humanity. But we're not on track to curve that yet. You know, seeing how well our politicians have been handling, you know, this recent pandemic. Yeah, like unless we like organized people's movement like intervenes, it's like we're just gonna have to figure out how to like best cope with this really awful situation that we're all in. I think organization is gonna like be key either way, whether we have to endure this government or overthrow it. Yeah, so like in terms of, that's probably my most fantastical mystical belief right now, I think. Wayfarer Angel says, little solace comes to those who grieve when thoughts keep drifting as walls keep shifting, and this great blue world of ours seems a house of leaves moment before the wind. What are you quoting there? Tell me. Let me know. Kenneth says, as a minority who loves psychedelics, thanks for speaking out. A lot of people in the psychedelic community preach open-mindedness and are still racist, sexist, homophobes at heart. Yeah, honestly, that's a really hard thing to do. Like, I think the key there is like moving from, like, I think there's like this progression of like, white people realize racism's bad, and so they're like, okay, I'm not going to be racist. But like, it's more like recognizing if we're like living within a society that was constructed by racists. Racism is like in like, I want to say engulfed, and it's probably not the best word. Fucking, it's systematic. It's very or systemic, I should say. Sorry, my bad. And it's built within the system. You know, like as individuals, you can be like, I'm not going to be racist, but if you're living in a racist system, you're constantly being conditioned. Like we're not as segregated as we were in the early 60s, sure, but we are still racially segregated. And there's like a huge amount of racial segregation that happens. It happens often on social media. Like I need to purposely be like, hey, my feed is looking pretty white. I need to like go out and diversify, hear more perspectives. It's just kind of like, it feels like it just happens in this society. There's the white suburbs get all the wealth and they have the nice schools, where the poor neighborhoods just happen to be less white. You know, I had a pretty average school. You know, it wasn't like wasn't bumping limousines. I know there was like some schools in my area that had like a lot more like sport equipment and stuff like that, but like, you know, we didn't have like run down freaking gates or whatever in the middle of the city or something. Bottom line, there's this book that was recommended by this YouTuber I just watched the other day. I should link it if I can remember. Maybe if Kit's still watching and they know what I'm talking about, they can link it in the chat. This video was really good. They were actually talking about Bo Burnham, his recent special Inside. And it was cool to like have that like perspective or whatever. It was a really good video, but he recommended a book called Racism Without Racists. And obviously I just watched this video the other day, but like even just that line, thinking about that concept, that there is racism without there being racists. I mean, obviously there's still flagrant racists out there, people who like outwardly say white supremacist stuff, that like overt stuff, but for the majority of people, we are more like complexly conditioned, you know, and it takes a long time to like decondition, and like takes learning, because there's like a lot of ignorance, you know. I remember I went to a powwow when I was younger, when I was a young kid, and I can't remember what I did or said. This freaking chill hop thing. Whatever I said offended this indigenous kid that was younger than me so much that he like put his belly right in my face and was like about to fight me. And I was just like, I managed to like say I'm sorry or whatever and like just like skirt the issue. I don't even remember what I said. I probably made like a really horrible joke or something like that, because I was pretty desensitized, because like when I was a kid, I grew up on South Park and stuff like that, like as a young kid, so like obviously like I did not have the best conditioning. So whatever I said to this kid, like he got really upset and offended, and I just remember that, you know, like, because I'm obviously don't hate like indigenous people or whatever, but like whatever I said there was like most likely racist. It's most likely really offensive, and when that happens, we need to take accountability, and we need to learn and try to like prevent that from happening to begin with by like listening to people with other experiences than your own. Because I had the white life, guys. I'm sorry. I feel bad about it. I wish I lived the Mi'kmaq way. personally. Get kicked out. Just the messengers. I'm glad. They're annoying. But what was the straw that broke the camel's back? Youth always tries to fill the void. An old man learns to live with it. Are these just like random quotes you're finding on Google? Wayfarer Angel says, some people reflect light, some deflect it. You, by some miracle, seem to collect it. Last one since he's gone. Just seemed that poor. Nah, House of Leaves. Yeah, that was good. House of Leaves? What's that? What's House of Leaves? I haven't even heard of that. I'm trying to keep with it because, like, as I'm getting closer to 30, I'm like, oh man, am I going to be like become out of touch or whatever? I wanna stay with it. I think it takes not making old person self-deprecating jokes. It's a real sign of age. The book was Racism Without Racists. Yeah, by Eduardo Bonilla Silva. Yeah, so good YouTube video, and sounds like a really good book. Like, just like the concept is like, it's really really hammers that stuff home. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, Kenneth, check it out. It's really good. Really good perspective. House of Leaves it's not a book. It's a labyrinth. I would recommend checking out Nightmind's video on it. Okay. He does good prep video. Okay. Had to go digging through our extensive YouTube video. Oops. Thanks, kid. He also covers the book, but that's more if you aren't going to read it. Yeah, like, honestly, I have, like, attention deficit issues. So reading is not always, I'm not always able to read without, like, I'll just end up chasing a squirrel somewhere and be like, how did I get here? That's honestly, like, when people say I'm so wise, I'm just like, honestly, I just, like, know so much surface level stuff from, like, side tangents from what I was supposed to be doing. Orange Nathan, peace out. Yeah, I'm glad you came out. I'm actually gonna end the stream very soon just because I have been going for a while. Yeah, we're going almost 2.5 hours. I'm glad everyone's having a good time. Yeah, I answered all the questions. If anyone has any more questions, just, like, let me know. But I'm gonna end this off by. Oh no, I might. Will I have to install Twitter to show you? I just happened to go on Jordan Peterson's freaking Twitter, and it was just, like, such, like, awful stuff. He was, like, promoting, like, a whole, like, male hierarchy thing. I'm like, wow, these guys are really mapping out the gender spectrum. And from with using Robert Crumb, of all people. Like, I'm a mild fan of Robert Crumb. It's not letting me install Twitter. It was so bad, guys. You gotta believe me. It was like, there's this whole framework. They try to purport that Robert Crumb, he if you don't know, this is a cartoonist. His story is somewhat famous. He did, like, just, like, crappy newspaper jobs and got married to his, like, first girlfriend, but he didn't really like her or love her or whatever. And so, like, one night when he was drinking at the bar with his friends and they were going to Seattle or something like that, like a few states over from where he was, he was like, yeah, I'll join you. And he just ditched his wife. I forget I don't think he had a kid, but he ditched his wife, just, like, deserted her. no warning, no message or whatever. And starts a new life where he becomes an underground cartoonist. And his stuff is a mixed bag. Like, I really appreciate his cartoon art style because, like, stylistically it's awesome. Really creative characters. I really like this whole, like, on the sleeve about your sexuality and stuff like that, and your kinks and stuff like that. That would, like, that was a void that needed to be filled, you know. You know, this was before, like, friggin' Rule 34 and stuff like that. So, like, to have, like, sexually explicit comics that were, like, both, like, funny, entertaining, and, like, odd and kinky, people didn't see that kind of stuff very often. So, like, really caught on. But at the same time, there's, like, a lot of, like, problematic stuff with his cartoons. Like, he's done some pretty bad racial stereotypes. And, like, I gotta, like, I can't name any examples. It's got a strong misogynist vibe. The bottom line, what, for better or for worse, Robert Crumb, Jordan Peterson, and this dude that he has on his friggin' podcast is trying to say that, Robert Crumb was actually lower than the bottom of the male hierarchy. He was at the bottom of the female hierarchy. Implying, of course, that the female gender hierarchy is lower than the male gender hierarchy. And I'm just like, wow. Like, I mean, it gets worse. Don't get me wrong. But I mean, just, like, this whole, like, idea of the, like, for example, if a dude wanted to be dommed by a female, like, does that really mean that you're, like, at the, like, the least of the men, actually, like, the least of the female? Like, how does this even make sense? Like, how do these people even make any sense about this? But it gets worse because he says that he was like that at the beginning of his career, but then he got successful and then flipped the script. He went from being at the bottom of the female hierarchy, where he was being ridiculed by women and they wouldn't appreciate him and he wasn't attractive, to being at the top of the male hierarchy, where he is the most attractive. And there's, like, so many assumptions baked into that, and, like, I think it's just, like, so telling because, like, you know, Jordan Peterson is, like, a avid defender of, like, the state and our culture or whatever. Yeah, right? It literally sounds like a black pill or something like that. But, like, I think it's really insightful to, like, understand where conservatives come from, of, like, this is, like, how they wrap up their gender insecurities and, like, frame things so that they can, like, really, like, beef up that they're, like, not just like an attractive sexual option, but, like, they need to be, like, the manliest of the men to, like, really stand out or something like that. But yeah, here's some, like, the problems with it. Well, the two huge ones I wanted to talk about. One was with success, and then the other one is about, like, the hierarchies in general. There's this, like, presumption. Yeah, exactly. Thank you for saying that. Wait for your angel says, I'ma just say, as an asexual, I find it odd how people define. Oh, your comment went away. Oh, no, it's back. Define themselves by wanting to, by if people want to kiss them or not. I've kissed people, it's not that great. Well, that's the thing. It's like, there's this assumption that it is for everyone. But asexuals are actually, like, it's not a small phenomenon, you know? But there's this, like, heavy narrative that, like, dudes fuck and they're naturally heterosexual and they're naturally monogamous and naturally competitive and blah blah blah. And so, like, with that framework that, like, you know, dudes want to have sex with women, there becomes this competitive angle where, like, the most attractive male is, like, at the top of the hierarchy and gets the most fucking gets the most. And like that, how is this like, are you saying that like the more sex you have, the more man you are? Like, I made the argument before that like right wingers wanted to say there's only two genders, but then we'll say like, oh, man up, you're not man enough. But like that implies a spectrum, right? Well, this is illuminating because Jordan Peterson actually sees it as like two binary spectrums where like you can be less of a man. You're still a man, but less of a man, you know? And the most alpha, he doesn't use the term alpha, but he's using the same framework. That's why like he's a fucking black belt or something. But like he sees like the people at the top are the most sexually attractive, the most successful. And what does successful mean? What does he mean by successful? Okay, I'll tell you. What he means by success is the capitalistic sense of success, as in like, oh yes, the man put himself into a meat coma. You nearly need therapy. Yeah, seriously, he really does. Money and power. Yes, thank you, Mckenna. Yeah. Well, I mean, money is the power and like currency or whatever, but like I don't know. Bottom line, like he's trying to say that like because he got successful in the sense that like he made more money off of what he was doing, he was able to survive, he became more attractive. When like maybe like you want to consider that like it's not that like you need to be successful to be attractive, but rather it's unattractive to be in poverty, you know? If you don't have money, it's kind of depressing. It's hard living like that, you know? And Jordan Peterson is like just like the emblematic voice of our time, of just basically bootstraps. That's his whole message. Bootstraps. Just fucking bootstrap yourself. It doesn't make sense, you know? Because you gotta like actually like understand the capitalist system that we're embedded in, you know? It's like you can't just be successful or whatever. Like obviously you're gonna feel better and like therefore perhaps be more attractive, I feel like have more money or like more comfortability or whatever, but there's no way to be like measuring a person's worth, you know, first based on their gender. If they're male, they're automatically more superior. Like if you know your but oh, one sec, sorry. Too many thoughts. And but yeah, like if he's implying that if you're at the bottom of the female spectrum, then it's like, so is he saying that this Robert Crumb was a woman? Or was he just like such in the negatives of manliness that he's actually at the bottom of the female spectrum? It's so sexist, man. It's not just sexist, it's actually like, because it's like, yeah, it's sexist and it's that toxic masculinity of putting people against each other, like, and like having these arbitrary rules of competitiveness, you know, like as if life is a game of like how much cred can you get, you know what I mean? It's so BS. There really wasn't much to it. That was like the whole Twitter post. There's like a video clip from the podcast. I'm not going to listen to the whole podcast. Oh gosh, you couldn't pay me to. I mean, maybe you could. Maybe you could. Kenneth, yeah, I'd like to do this again too. Yeah, so I think I'm going to start doing this on my side channel because I don't want to clog up this channel. I'm doing it this week because I said I was going to do a Q&A, fulfilling that promise. And also I feel bad for not doing a video this week. I tried, but it failed. So hopefully the algorithm won't totally punish me for this. Yeah. Yeah, so like, you know, if you're not like defective if you don't want to have sex or you're not romantic with somebody. I know sexual and romantic are like two separate categories. Like, and that's the thing, like people have so many different types of experiences and relationships to these concepts, these human concepts. And to like say that there's like a universal concrete one and everyone who doesn't fit into that are divergent nothings, don't even consider them. It's messed up. Who's this guy? Peterson. Who's Mckenna? Jordan Peterson. He went on his daughter's all meat diet, the carnivores diet, which again, it just really reads as a like capitalistic scam, like as if like this teenager or this young person like actually knows enough about like food and nutrition to be commenting on like what everyone should do in order to have like a healthy diet. It's really ridiculous. She was obviously just trying to like push a plan to make money, and her dad, Jordan Peterson, really went for it. And apparently he had some sulfites or something like that, went off the diet one time by accident. Apparently he went into like this like awful coma depression for like a month. It was just so wild. I'm like, how do people like take this person seriously? But then he actually went into a serious, like legit induced in coma later when he got addicted to benzos to like deal with the anxiety of going on stage. Very ironic because he's against safe spaces and tells people to get over their anxiety as a living. Yeah, but like he struggled with an addiction, and instead of like, because it was so strong, he decided to do the alternative method of like going to a country, I'm pretty sure it was Russia, in order to do this risky surgery that's not legal in other places, where they put you into a coma and fast track your withdrawal from this substance. So like all those, the worst withdrawal effects happen when you're in coma, hypothetically. I don't know how well it works. Like, I don't know, Jordan Peterson, like, he wasn't always with it, but he's definitely not nearly as with it as he once was. Like, he's just like, and it's sad. It's like, that's the thing, you gotta be careful with substances. You can't like abuse them. And like, he was really pushing himself to like make all these like tour dates and stuff like that, dealing with bad anxiety and stuff. Feel for him for that stuff. I like totally disagree with like basically everything he has to say ideologically, but like as a person, that sucks to have to deal with that kind of stuff. Anxiety's rough. The funniest thing is that I appreciate feminine qualities over masculine ones. Kenneth says, being a man is embarrassing sometimes. Yeah, honestly, it really is. Like, that's why one of the things I do like about Terence McKenna is like feminize. Yeah, I love this whole like feminizing of masculinity. I think that's a good, healthy exercise. I think that like a lot of people feel like men are becoming too feminine, but I think that's only relative because we've been so overly toxically masculine for so long that like any subtle this might like totally like totally upset some like hetero guy to like go AWOL, total homophobe or something. They're deep rooted though. That's the thing. Like beliefs that are like tied with your identity get really emotional reactions, you know. That's why it's hard to parse out these things, and I think that's where psychedelics can come in. It can help. Nicholas Carlo says, hey, so have you encountered the Salvia D archetype before? I'm not sure which archetype you're referring to. If you're referring to the shepherdess, no. Just no, I haven't. Wayfair Angel says, I mean, I won't date a guy if he can't walk in heels. That's fair. Gotta practice. I mean, it was like that's one of the weird ones, weird fashion things that like, it was originally for men or designed for males, and then became a female thing. It's weird how trends go. Oh, sorry, Salvi Goddess. Yeah, no, I haven't actually experienced any shepherdess on Salvia. I might have gotten vibes. However, I feel like I could have easily projected that. Yeah, I don't think I actually... Yeah, the more I think about it, I don't think I've ever actually experienced anything like that. Yeah, this wasn't my trip, unfortunately. That'd be a cool communion. I just found it displays a flexibility that means wheel mesh. Oh, leave it, Angel. Hit me up on Insta. I am free to DM. I'm not big enough to close off my DMs yet. Salvia as a drug. That is the takeaway from this Q&A. Yeah. So with that, trashing on JP and talking about all that, I think I've said everything I wanted to say. Yeah, hell of a week. But we're gonna have a great weekend, me and Kit. So I'm really glad y'all came out and watched. This was really fun. I'm probably gonna edit some highlights and post it up too. We'll see how good the quality turns out. I know I can only stream at 720 right now, but if you did enjoy this, I'll do it more often, and I'll do it on my side channel so it doesn't clog up this channel. I'll maybe make a community post it on Patreon or something. Gooey. I really appreciate everyone for coming out. This been really fun. Kit to T, yes, I have a side channel I haven't posted on for like a year. It was called Psychedelic Ancom, but then I rebranded it to be Dodo Dolo. And like, just cause like I've been like in this like very hesitant like in between stage for a long time of being like, okay, this channel is so associated with Salvia. Can I like talk about other things with it, or should I just start a new channel? And I almost started just a new channel, but then why is my nose so itchy? I almost started the new channel, but then I was like, maybe I should just keep on with the interbeing art thing. But like sometimes I'm like, oh, maybe this isn't for interbeing art. So I might end up one day switching to that account, or I might post on there more often. Right now I'm thinking I might make it my stream account. Well, I'll watch you whenever I see you. Oh, KTT. Oh, thank you. DM me. What are you doing? Yeah, so yeah, check me out on the last Dodo Dolo. I think you can find it through Dodo Dolo. It's through if you go to my channel, just check under channels, it should be there. I posted. So you accept Salvia as a drug? Yes, I do. Everything is drugs. Yeah, honestly, true enough. If you define drugs as a mind-altering substance, it's like every substance alters your mind. Everything is a substance. Your mind is a substance. Is your substance's mind? Yeah, who said it wasn't? Sugar's a drug. Exactly, yeah. Sugar's the most addictive drug. Yeah, so maybe I'll link to that too in the highlights or something. Dodo Dolo. I'll do one last smoke with y'all. The conscious experience is just an adaptive hallucination. Yeah, like, it's like yes and no. Like, I have a hard time arguing with that, because it's like, we need to like really believe our collective hallucination, you know? Like, we're in this boat together. Like, things do have physical effects. I think sometimes this whole rhetoric of that, like, you know, we're all just mind and this is just a hallucination, that can tend to lead to like a laissez-faire attitude towards life, being like, who cares about social issues? This pain is temporary, you know? Life is a ride. And morally speaking, like, I can't like that's just like such a privileged position to say. Like, I mean, like if someone's like suffering, I think we need to like find ways to ease that suffering, you know? It's sure like this pain might be temporary illusion or whatever, but we take that seriously. No one likes gatekeepers. Maybe. True psychedelics are living beings, not drugs. What do you mean by living beings? What do you mean by drugs, I guess, in this case? True psychedelics? What? I don't know. Materialism leads far more to physical suffering. I don't know. Like, I want to make a distinction because, like, when Terence McKenna talks about materialism, he kind of conflates these two definitions. One definition means that, like, you collect objects, you know, you put a lot of pressure or, like, emphasis on material possessions. And then there's materialist, where you say reality is physical substance, like physicalist, and that's what I am. And I'm like, I don't think that leads to more suffering. I think that leads to more rationality. I don't think it's a reductive thing. Like, you know, just because I'm a physicalist doesn't mean I say like consciousness is not a spectacular phenomenon. Doesn't mean that I don't think suffering should be avoided. Healing should be something that's prioritized. Human well-being is something that we should all strive for. You know, so like, in terms of what people want to say, like with the materialist, a metaphysicalist debate, they want to like say like, oh, how do they have morals? Like metaphysicalists say that like a lot, and it's like there's no correlation. You know, there's morals are often broken by people who have metaphysical beliefs or religious beliefs. You know. It doesn't make you morally superior. It's like morals is hard work, whether you're physicalist or materialist, or sorry, physicalist or metaphysicalist. Man, I got 2 dislikes on this. Who do you think it was? The light equals God equals the true psychedelics. Jill, I thought you were joking. Are you joking? Terence McKenna pretended to ingest psychedelics over a decade as he talked about them, but was terrified to ingest them. I'm getting... Are you trying to confuse me? Okay, Nixus Carlos says, not... I mean it academically. Sorry, what academically? Seems to me avoidance of suffering is how we got most of these problems. I don't know about that. How do you mean avoidance of suffering? Like, I'm not trying to, like, when I say avoidance of suffering, I'm not trying to say that, like, you know, we shouldn't cry, or I'm not saying we shouldn't feel pain. I'm saying that, like, we shouldn't keep causing harm, or we should, like, minimize harm, is what I'm trying to say. And I'm not trying to, like, make, like, a society where, like, people are like so sheltered and padded where they don't even know like what to feel anymore or something like that. You know, it's like there's some extremes there. I'm not sure what you mean by that. Like, because like I think some of the worst atrocities weren't committed by people trying to minimize suffering. You know, although there's often moral justification for atrocities. Look at the little trolls. They're both Terence and Dennis are frauds. Yeah. Yeah, I can't tell Nicholas Carlo. I don't know. But anyways, yeah, I had a lot of fun. I'm gonna take one last hit with you guys. Yeah, and we can keep, if you want to like try to like convert me or like, you know, try to talk me on materialism or something like that, come on to my side channel and we'll talk next week. I'm gonna decide a date to do these live streams. I might not do it at this time. This is just what worked today. thank you all for coming on. Thanks, Nicholas Carlo. Yeah. Thank you for all joining. I'd like to thank my patrons, as I do every week. They really help allow this to keep going. I might be able to make videos if I didn't have patrons, but like they allow me to make videos as much as I do. Otherwise, you'd be getting like 2 videos a year or something. Because they give me hope. That's what they do. Patreons give me hope. The new patron this week is CherokeeBaeee, and I have their interbeing. I will upload that onto Patreon. You all see it next week. I don't know if anybody pays attention to the interbeings at the end of my videos, like the cartoons or whatever. Draw them every week, but yeah. So yeah, thank you very much for that. That's patreon.com/interbeingart if you want to get your own interbeing, or you could donate at PayPal, paypal.me/interbeingart. I really appreciate you coming on. Also follow me on Instagram and Twitter. That was the other thing. I'm just doing like shout outs as I'm thinking about it. But yeah, enough with all that superficial shit. This was real. This was really great. London Real has videos exposing Terence. London Real, man, they weren't exposing Terence. Like, what are you talking about? Like, are you trying to say he was like that FBI agent or something like that? He was talking about mushrooms. He wasn't talking about being like created by the FBI. Anyways, if you know, you know. Anyways, yeah. I don't know how many times I'm gonna say I appreciate you guys coming on, but it was fun. Terence did not ingest. With that, love you guys.